So welcome to StoryMagic Day 9. I am going to share my slides with you and let people in. There we go. Okay, so today we are going to be talking about the importance of location. Where are you sharing your story? Because so far we've talked about editing, the importance of editing, the absolute vitality. That's the wrong word. Anyway, I'll choose a different one. The absolute importance of editing. And there are so many books out there at the moment, written by entrepreneurs, written by change makers. And I start reading them and I just think, oh, you needed an editor. Like there's good stuff in here, but I as the reader have to work to find it. And that is not what we want to make our poor readers do. We do not want to make them work on our behalf. We need to have done the work so that they get to enjoy it. And that will end up being better for everyone. So editing is super important. I've taught you my process, which is the essential extraneous process. I recommend you use that after every piece of writing. We've talked about the importance of making sure that you are editing out anything which is over-explaining, over-teaching, perhaps patronizing to your audience, anywhere where you are taking too much time to set the scene, set context, and choosing instead to trust your audience and your voice. And we've talked about editing through the lens of who your work is for and the different ways that you are going to then speak, in terms of if you're speaking to a group of self-professed visionaries versus a boardroom of middle management or sort of more traditional CEO types. Of course, you're going to use different language, and that's not being inauthentic, it's being intelligent. And it is also understanding that you have all these different facets and different parts of you, and which one makes most sense and is actually going to end up having the biggest benefit for you, for the people that you're speaking to, if you should you choose to bring it forward, right? Bring it front and center, knowing that, like at my dad's 80th party, sometimes you're going to have to slightly edit your natural way of speaking to be able to connect, right? To be able to connect, because then once that door is open, you probably can bring a bit more of your depth, of your magic. But if you bring it up front and center in the wrong places, that door may never open. So sometimes us magical types have to get a little crafty. And today I'm going to be talking to you about editing through the lens of where you are sharing your voice. And ultimately, there are two locations, right? There are two, the stage or the page. And there's an obvious difference between these two locations, the stage or the page, and it's that on the stage you're going to be sharing your spoken voice, and on the page you're going to be sharing your written voice. In today's world, the stage might be online, right? It might be an online stage like this. This is a stage right now. It might be a webinar. It might be a Facebook Live. They all count as stages. It's still you and your spoken voice, the tone of your voice, the timbre of your voice, the pacing of your voice, your inflections, all of that you have access to, you have available to you when we're talking about your spoken voice. Obviously, when we're talking about your written voice, you don't have that, right? You can't have your audience know that you meant at that moment to speak incredibly slowly, You can guide them to it. You can use things like spacing, right? You can use things like having full stops instead of commas to guide the reader, but you don't have as much control of the audience because they can't hear you, they can't see you, right? It's only squiggles on a page that you have to play with. And there's this old study that showed that body language is more important than what people are actually saying. This has actually been not completely rescinded, but it's been edited to show that it's actually true that body language is more important in terms of understanding when the words are unclear, when the intention through the words is not clear. So this is really important to understand because it means that if your words are confusing, people will look unconsciously to your body language to discern, is that a joke? Is that true? Does this person know what they're talking about? So when you're on the stage, obviously your body language is incredibly important. And what that means in a bigger sense is that people are looking for congruence, right? They're looking for congruence. They're looking for your words and the tone of your voice and your pacing and your pausing and your body language and your facial expressions to all line up. And when they do, when it's all congruent, that creates a sense of easeful trust in you, right? In your audience. And with your spoken voice, you can get away with a bit more. Like we were talking yesterday with Becky about the possibility of bringing in some humor, right? And you can do that with your spoken voice much more easily because you also have you can do it on the stage much more easily because you have your spoken voice and you also have your face, right? And you can sort of give a little cheeky wink to the audience or a little knowing nod. Like people pick up on the tiniest of cues, and we want to make sure that as people with a message, we're using all of those cues that are available to us. So on Friday, we're going to be having a story show, and you're all going to be sharing your story. And I want you to start having a think about more than just the words you're using. So thinking about your tone of voice. Where in your story do you want to land a point? Knowing that when you pause, you've landed a point. So where can you use pausing to really land a point? Also make sure, and this is especially true for women, a lot of women will go up at the end of sentences as if they're asking a question, as if they're asking for permission to be listened to, and it really derails your credibility. So have a listen back to yourself. I recommend recording yourself speaking your story. Listen back and check in. Do you have that habit? Are you someone who, when it is not a question, still goes up at the end, right? Maybe start sounding a little bit Australian. And we don't want that. We want you going down. Especially on the points that are very important. Slightly lower in the voice, slightly slower. Gravitas. Because then you do have more room to go a bit faster, be more playful, go a little bit high when you're perhaps, conjuring a moment or telling a silly story. But if everything is high and fast, people will stop listening. Can you all just make sure you're muted because someone's unmuted? So yes, use your voice, play with your voice and your face. And bear in mind, especially at the moment, a lot of stages are still online. So have a think about your little rectangle of a stage. Is it serving you and your message? Is it distracting? Or is it, I like a background to be as simple as possible. You can have a few objects, that's fine, maybe books or salt lamps, but make sure that they are on brand for you. Yeah, so simple as possible. We don't want a distracted audience. And anything that is there, make sure it is on brand for you. So look back to that middle segment of your Message Magic model, those feeling words, and make sure that they are congruent. So if you want your audience to feel safe and rested and peaceful, but your background is cluttered and messy and kind of disordered or chaotic, your background isn't serving your message, right? It's not on brand for you, and it's not helping your audience to feel the way that you want them to feel. So have a think about your background when you are, when your stage is this little rectangle, and also think about your clothes. Okay, again with clothes, you want to find the balance between being yourself, of course, right? You want to be your authentic self. But as I said at the beginning, we all have so many selves, right? So many. So which one or which ones do you want to bring forward? Which ones do you want to be seen when you're in presenter mode, teacher mode, coaching mode, delivery mode? And definitely let your personality be there, right? Absolutely. But again, not distracting, right? So do just make sure that if there's like a lot of sort of contrasting, conflicting patterns and glasses and earrings and a headband and a big necklace, it's all a bit much. It's a bit overwhelming. So try and find sort of clean lines, and the balance between that and making sure you do bring your personality, you let yourself be seen. So have a think about how you want to be presenting yourself, which doesn't mean suddenly thinking, oh my God, I've got to be perfect and professional. That is not what I'm saying. But, is how you're showing up in your tiny rectangle in alignment with you and your brand essence and serving your message. Okay, so when we're talking about the stage, there is so much more to think about, which we could take as overwhelming, or we could take as, oh my goodness, I have so much to play with and so much here that can serve and back up my message, right? If I get my background, tidy and not distracting, and I find clothes that really help me feel like me, like the me that I want to be being seen out there. And I get to play with my tone of voice, which means I can bring more of my personality because I can be, cheeky or direct or really, opening up a space to cosmic connection through allowing more air into your voice. Right, there's so much you can do. So have a play with the parts of that feel most exciting and up-leveling to you. And then there are a few of those that we can translate across onto the page. So with punctuation, right? So when we are sharing our word on the page, we absolutely want to be thinking about the flow of the reader's attention through the page. Like, where do we want them to be pausing, knowing we're not there to pause, right? Where do you need two spacings, 2 lines of space or more, right? Where do you need to use a full stop instead of a comma? In general, as short a sentence as possible is better for copywriting, right? Not necessarily for, of course not for a novel, right? Do what you want. But if we're wanting to write copy where the intention is to take the audience on a journey and then have them take a next step, then we want to be in a in integrity way, controlling that journey, right? So where do you want their eyes? Where do you want them pausing? And if there are certain pieces that you know that are really important, bold them. Yeah, so you can use full stops, spacings, bolding. Don't use too many different fonts. Like, never, ever, ever use more than 2 fonts. That is just entirely distracting. That's like the clothes version of having like all your jewelry on. It's it's very distracting. And also make sure that for your skim readers, you have little summary points of the paragraph you're about to write as a header. So that then when you go back through your writing, and you only read the titles, it still makes sense, right? It still takes them on that journey. It's just the absolute essentialized version of that journey for our skim readers. Okay, so let's go into this a bit more. So the stage, I've divided this up into in person, right? So for this, you might be speaking at conferences, you might be speaking at big events, but you also might be speaking at intimate retreats, right? Or workshopos. Who loves workshopos? So bear in mind, whether you are speaking to 300 people or 30 people or 3 people, it's still a speaking gig. And you still want to be bringing your absolute A game, right? It would require a different level of energy. In fact, I'll show you it in the opposite because that will make the point best. But imagine that you're at a table, right, with 3 people. And you are delivering as if you are in front of 300 people. It's going to be weird. But the opposite is also true. So if you get to be on a stage with 300 people there and you're speaking as if you're just, with these 3 people at the table, it's not going to work. Right. So when we're talking about the stage, the other thing we're talking about is size of energy, right? How much energy are you bringing in that moment? And so I would always recommend, anyone who has seen me speak at an event has seen me do this before, I always get up on the stage while the room is empty and practice speaking into the corners of the room. Right? And I feel how much energy does it require for me to be filling this room. Just to the right amount, not more, because then that's weird. Just to the right amount. So, and even if you're doing this at a networking event and there's 12 people there, right? Get up on the stage. Sometimes it's not a real stage, but sometimes there's just the place that you stand. It's still the same. Right? You still need to feel into how much energy does this space require of me. And then when you're online, you have so many options these days. It's so exciting, right? You're building businesses these days is so much easier. yeah, when I first started, we didn't have Zoom webinars. We had instant teleseminar. It was all without visuals at the beginning. I did my first webinar. Well, it wasn't a webinar; it was a teleseminar without visuals, just my voice. And I sold a VIP day. So we have so much more available to us now. So you've got webinars, you've got podcasts, which could be yours, right? But it could also be guesting on other people's podcasts, which I would recommend. Actually, this is kind of an aside, going a bit more into strategy. But a podcast is a lot of work, and it's much easier to get on other people's podcasts, right? Have them have built the audience. You get on their podcast, give your link to your freebie, your sign up. They joined your mailing list. You've just grown your audience via someone else's platform. So I would recommend that over starting your own at this point. Summits, right? Great way to build your list, to practice sharing your voice as well. Summits are a great way to practice sharing your voice. All of these things are, right? All of these things are. Never ever wait for the big one, right? Don't wait for the TED Talk or wait to be invited onto Oprah. Always be practicing. Practicing sharing your voice, practicing shaping your message through sharing your voice, right? That's how you will get better and better and better. So any kind of interview, always say yes until you are an absolute master at your message. Say yes to interviews and practice sharing it and seeing how it lands. Facebook Lives, right? Again, your own or other people's. You can do Facebook Live swaps with each other, interview each other in your Facebook groups. Networking, a lot of that these days is happening online. We could also put networking up here, right? Speaking at networking is a really great way to start. Really, really great way to start speaking. And then I've also put parties. That should also be up here on the in-person one. And again, remember, when you're at a party, you're likely going to be meeting new people, and you never, ever, ever know who knows who. Now, obviously, you don't want to be that weird person that's trying to get clients at a party. But if you use communication in the way that we have been doing here, like if you imagine Rianne at a party, maybe not in the maybe not on the dance floor, but maybe later at the after party, right? Sitting around and you're all getting to know each other a little bit better, and she shares that story. Oh my goodness, is she going to now be memorable? And if somebody later meets a family who are struggling, they are going to know exactly who to refer them to. Yeah, so always be bearing that in mind when you're meeting new people, that you never know who they might know. And when you're speaking from the stage, you want to be speaking from your heart so you can move your audience emotionally, like we saw such a great example of yesterday with Rianne. And then if it's the right people, into action, right? That action might be someone choosing to work with you. It might be like the example I just gave, someone referring someone else to you. Yeah, it might be someone wanting to invite you to go speak on their stage or interview you on their podcast. All of these things are great actions that we want other people taking in response to hearing us speak. But do bear in mind that speaking from your heart with the intention to move your audience emotionally and into action is a skill, right? And it's very, very different from completely unprepared, garbled speech, right? So no, we don't want you up on the stage, you know, with your clicker, listing out your credentials, speaking from your head with only facts, figures, and statistics. They may well have a place in your speech, but amongst story. And making sure that you are finding for you, and this will be different at different stages of your journey, but for you, that right balance of knowing exactly what you're going to say and trusting yourself, being relaxed enough, being present enough with your audience that you can then, in moments, tune in, speak from your heart, go, right? The unplanned aliveness. And so in terms of knowing exactly what you're going to say, you want your structure, right? You want your structure and your pieces to play with, which you now have. You have your vision, right? This is your why. This is so important and so useful. So make sure that the end of this course is not the end of that, that you are continuing to share your vision out there in the world. And you have your why you, which is those stories from your past. And remember, we said that you can play with the order of those in all sorts of different ways. You can also, especially if you're doing a longer form talk, like a webinar, or let's say you're doing a keynote, you've got an hour on someone else's stage, or you're actually holding your own workshop or even retreat, right? Multi-day retreat. What you can do with those stories is you can break them up and then do teaching pieces and exercises in between. So one of the things I do as an example is I tell that weird story, right, where I'm terrified to put out my first video and then I get called weird. And then I have this conversation in my head about, you know, it's not safe, you should stop. And then the other voice is like, this is exactly why you need to keep going. And then I do an exercise with the audience on what is the thing they are most scared of being called, right? And then we go into that, we do work around releasing that. And then I bring back this word weird that I was called. And the next development stage of that, the next story piece, is actually this whole exploration of what the word weird actually means, right? And how it means, it's from the old German werden, meaning to become or grow. And it actually means, if you look at the etymology of it, it means to become who you are. So that wasn't a criticism. That was a beautiful compliment of me becoming who I am. And actually the truth is that in order to become who you were meant to be, you need to let out your weird. Right? And then I do this exercise with the clients on what's your weird, right? What's your weird? What's like, you know, we've been talking with a few of you, there are sort of some parallels in our work. Like, what is that part of you that you have been holding back that is the very thing that will have your just right clients go, oh my God, I need them. Yeah. So you know, story, teaching and workshop, story, teaching and workshop, and then one second, let it come back in my head while I sip coffee. Got it. Thanks, coffee. Then I tell the story of the bright blue dress, right? Which I told in the webinar that brought you into StoryMagic by itself, right? I told it in the webinar by itself. In a longer workshop, I put it at the end, and it's all about how you and your version of the bright blueness and the cap sleeveness of the dress is just right for your just right clients, right? Wrong for the wrong person, and right for the just right clients. And so then we carry on looking at who needs your weird, right? So you see how when you have your stories, you can use them all together and you can break them apart and look for the learnings that the stories gave you and go deeper into them, right? Deeper into them, creating exercises and experiences for your clients, for your potential clients, to really get those lessons for themselves. And then you have concertinaed out your stories and you've created an amazing workshop. Okay, so you've got so much creative fodder in your hands now. And then, of course, that final piece is what you do, right? What do you do? Now, this is the piece that is the most common piece, right? It's the bit that I was going to all those workshops over those years and people were giving me the formulas and I was like, but I don't know what to put in these spaces. And it's super important. It's super important to have it and to know that it's not everything and it's never going to be everything. But remember, it's your front door, right? It's your front door. We want it to be a head-turning front door so that the right person walking past goes, I need that, and comes in to find out more. That's all we need that to do, right? We just need someone responding with, tell me more. Okay, so these are your pieces to play with in terms of your structure. And then, of course, if you're speaking on a stage, whether it is in person or online, there's a couple of other structural pieces that you need to know, right? You need to know how long you have to speak. That hopefully goes without saying, but you know, I've been at speaking events where the slot was 10 minutes and speakers have gone for 20 minutes. And it's rude, right? It messes it up for the organizers. And also the audience pick up on it. Obviously, the audience haven't been told all of the speakers have 10 minutes. But yeah, you can tell if a speaker is going on longer than their allotted slot is. So yeah, make sure that even if you are a wonderful rebel, in terms of speaker times, you know how long you've got and you plan it for that amount of time. And of course, know who you're speaking to. Right? Always ask event organizers, who's in the audience? Who's in the audience? Why have they come? What have they been told about the event? Right? Because you need to know what their understanding of the event is, what they've come looking for, what they're wanting, where they're at in their journeys, whether it's a health journey or a relationship journey or a business journey or a vocation journey. You need to know where they're at and what they're wanting so you can really be speaking to them. And in order to get those kinds of opportunities, a little note on getting interviewed, and also this can absolutely be transferred across to getting onto stages and delivering talks. It's all about building relationships. Right? This is what I love about business. It's all about relationships. It really, really is. And good communication, obviously, and then dazzling them. So whether it is a 20-minute podcast or a 10-minute Facebook Live swap or an hour-long keynote, bringing your absolute best, asking them about their audience, because that's what they care about, right? They care about nurturing their audience and giving value to their audience. So if you can position yourself as somebody with interesting insights, perspectives, teachings that will serve this person's audience, whose stage you want to get onto or whose podcast you want to be interviewed on, you are so much more likely, A, to get that experience in the first place, but B, if you do those things, to then have them mention you to their podcast buddies, right? Mention you to their networking friends. And then it all gets so much easier. So do make sure when you're approaching these people that you're leading with vision, shared values, and an interesting perspective. I remember when I did my first, when I held my summit in 2018, it was called Women on Fire. And I got the most interesting messages, like people who I'd never met, never heard of, just sending private messages to me on Facebook saying, I've seen you're doing a summit, can you interview me? Like, I don't know who you are. I don't know what you're going to want to talk about. I don't know what your opinion is. I don't know your perspective on our world. I don't know your heart. No, of course not. Versus people who would message saying things like, I'm so inspired by what you're up to. Like, you know, a little bit of flattery, never hurt anyone. We seem to have really aligned values, right? Mention something that demonstrates that. You can't just say that, right? You have to actually back it up. And then use the words we've been crafting, like, this is the mission I'm on, or this is my vision for the world. And then crucially, and this is how what I bring can serve your audience. Remember, that's what they care about, right? So you want to always be, yes, positioning yourself as someone with an interesting perspective, someone with who's up to something big in the world, right? Sharing your vision and being of service to what they care about. It's the same structure, right? It's the what's in it for them piece, but in this moment, the what's in it for them is for the person with the stage. Yeah, and what they want is to give their audience a really great, valuable experience so their audience keeps coming back. So make sure you are bearing that in mind. And other ways to find gigs or find the ones that you then need to be, reaching out, creating the relationships with the people who hold them, etc. Go networking, right? But don't go networking for clients. Go networking for gigs, for speaking gigs. This turned my business around, this one decision, because up until this moment, I was going networking for clients. And there's just a bit of a sticky energy around that, because then you're in a room of people who are all looking for clients. No one's gone networking to be a client. Everyone's gone networking to get clients. So it's just from the very get-go, it's a little bit of a strange dynamic. But as soon as you step out of that dynamic, the dynamic changes, because that's how life works. And there's a lot more freedom, right? Instead of, I'm here. Where are my clients, right? Instead of doing that, you're there going, what other events do you go to where there are speakers, right? Do you have a favorite conference that you go to each year? I am really enjoying speaking to you. Are there places that you go to where there are more people like you? Right? So you can be much more natural and much more kind of shoulder to shoulder with the people who are there at the networking events. So you always be asking, whenever you're at networking events, always be asking, like, where else, right? Where else is this kind of thing happening? Where else are my people? So always be expanding your knowledge of where your people are by asking them when you meet them, yeah? Where do you hang out? Where do you go? And then Google, of course. So literally Google your topic. So you might Google like natural health plus London, right? Or plus Dartmoor, and then just plus event, right? And you'll get so much interesting stuff. Set a timer right? Set a timer, give yourself an hour. This is a task, this is a business task that you need to be doing about once a week, right? Set a timer, go to Google, your topic plus your location, wider if you're willing to travel, plus event. You will just suddenly discover a world of opportunities. Okay, and then you want to schedule them, right? You want to put them in your calendar, start going to them, start building the relationships, find out who books the speakers, find out who makes that decision, befriend them, right? And get to understand them, what they're up to in the world, what they care about, and then ask. Yeah, really, really simple. You can literally go up to a network organizer and say, I am loving this networking event. Are you looking for speakers? Simple, simple, simple. Being a human, having a conversation, right? Other ways to do that, if it's sort of a bit bigger than a networking event, is you can email the event organizer of a conference, for example, and keep it very, very simple at that point because they're super busy and they're bombarded, and just ask them literally in a one-line sentence, do you take outside speakers? That's all you need to know at that point. Do they take outside speakers? And they'll either reply, yes, we do, and they'll probably have a form to fill in or something, or no, we don't. And then you know, right? And then you do their process. Like the bigger the event, the more systematized and processed it's going to be. So you don't go in guns blazing with like, this is who I am, because they don't care yet, right? They want you to follow their system. But definitely ask, especially at those smaller networking events, you know, are you looking for speakers? And be sharing your voice on social media, because that's the first thing they're going to do. They're going to come and check your social media profiles. And if you have told them that you are a speaker and you help these people do this thing, right? And they've met you and they've loved you, and then they come onto your social media profiles and like there's a photo of your dog as your profile photo and no bio that describes what you do, and your last 3 photos were what you had for brunch. It's not going to happen. So you need to be sharing your voice on social media. These days, this is more important than having a good website. It's more important. My website is embarrassingly out of date, and I'm still making a very healthy profit because I share my voice on social media. Do I want to get my website up to date? Yes, of course I do. But it's not a top priority. It's much more important in terms of building a profitable business and getting speaking gigs, which helps you build a profitable business, to be sharing your voice on social media. Also, sharing your voice on social media is such a gift. It's such a gift. And of course, I mean that for, you know, the people who get to hear it. But in this moment, I mean it's such a gift for you, because you get instant feedback. You get instant feedback on what people are interested in, on what people are not interested in, on how your voice is landing, right? If you share a story that you, in your understanding, you know, sets you up as a guide, right, that can help someone move through difficult terrain and out the other side, but all the responses to your story are, oh my goodness, I'm so sorry, are you okay? Then some tweaking needs to happen. Yeah? So you get instant feedback. And I know a lot of people have very mixed opinions on social media, as do I, absolutely. But it's such a gift. It's literally at your fingertips, right? You can lie up in bed, propped up by pillows, and share your voice with the world. Personally, I think if someone is saying that they care about sharing their voice with the world and creating a better world and not using social media, they're not living their purpose to the fullest, because it's at your fingertips. You just need to be a bit disciplined with it and yourself. So you're making sure that you're creating before you're consuming. You are deliberate about using it, and then you turn it off, and then you go and you live your life. Right? But it's so useful. It's so useful. And if you want to be sharing your voice wider, getting on those stages, being invited to interviews, it's vital. Vital. So just a reminder, when you're reaching out, making sure that you are positioning yourself as someone with juicy stuff to share, that you've done your research, that you know who you're talking to, you know who this person's audiences are, versus, can you interview me, which is all about you. And it's all about relationship building. Again, this is what I love most about business. It's a journey of relationship building and talking about things you love, right? That's essentially it. Yes, there's some very important structural pieces. Yes, there's some very important strategy pieces. But at its core, good business building is about relationship building and sharing about things you love. So how lucky are we that we get to do that? And obviously, the best way to get better is to practice. Practice, 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 practice. No gig is too small until you are Oprah. Okay? So on the page, so many places, again, so many opportunities to share your voice. So obviously on your website, you've got your home page, you've got your About Me page, which we're going to be working on tomorrow, and you've got your Work With Me pages. You've got your sales pages, you've got things which are going out rhythmically to your audience, your newsletters or blog posts. You've got that really high value real estate, which is your social media about sections, right? Your headers on your personal page and your business page if you have one, and your group. On your personal page, the little bit that's your bio where you get to say what you do and put a link. High value real estate, right? Make sure you are using it to the utmost. Your story bio, which we're also going to be looking at tomorrow. And then similarly, like we talked about with the stage, you've got your stages and other people's. With the page, you've got real estate, which is yours, right? Your website, your social media about sections. And then you've got other people's. Yeah, so maybe you want to think about sharing your story with other people. Who accepts guests on their blogs? Are there any online media outlets that you want to write for? Definitely worth doing a little bit of that. And of course, we've got here social media, because as I say, it's at our fingertips and we need to be making the most of it. So this is what I suggest you all try. So this is suggestions for a week of posts. Okay, so day 1, you share your story just as it is. Okay, no call to action. Your story is the call to action, right? When you tell a story with emotive language, you will naturally get responses. What you're doing here is you're positioning yourself as a safe space for this topic, right? You're opening a conversation on the topic of your story. Because when you tell the story of your wounds, fears, dreams, delights, you're telling the story of their wounds, fears, dreams, and delights too. And it's natural as a human to want to respond and share. So you don't need a traditional call to action. Your story is the call to action. And then the following day, ask a question related to the story, right? It could be as simple as if I told my weird story, right, then the next day I might ask, what's the worst thing you could get called on the internet, right? And that makes sense for my ideal clients because they want to share their voice and there's fear there, right? So ask a question related to the story that makes sense for your audience. And then on day 3, share your vision, your why. Paint a picture of what's possible. So if you think about what's just happened as well, especially if you do ask a question about something to do with, the fears or the difficulties or the wounds, then the next day, so we always want to be doing this, right? Emotional journey. The next day, then we're taking them up. So I hear that there is this fear, this doubt, this concern, whatever it is, and here's what's possible. Here's where we're going. And then day 4, now they're listening, right? They're interested, they've engaged. Share what you do. Share what you do and an invitation. Okay. I recommend that your invitation is to book a call with you. Okay. At this point, make sure you don't go funky. A lot of people go really weird at the point of sale. So keep the same energy, same tone of voice, and invite them to speak with you. And then on day 5, share a client testimonial, which of course is a story that backs up the transformation. Okay, and you can remind them at that point again to book a call with you. So, which is calling more? I recommend both, ultimately. And it's good to have one as your primary focus. So do you want to master sharing authentically from the stage or the page? Is it your spoken voice or your written voice that you are wanting to master sharing? Which one is calling you? So pop it in the chat. Let's have a look. And bear in mind that this journey of building a business ultimately has four phases or 4 stages to it, right? Not that they all happen in order, they're all happening simultaneously, but you're growing your audience, right? You need to continually be growing your audience, reaching more people. Otherwise, you satiate your audience and you might have some success and then it dries out. So you need to make sure you're continually growing your audience, that you're also then continually growing those relationships, right? So let's say someone's joined your email list. Now you need to be emailing them or sending them blog posts to nurture and deepen that relationship and have them really get to know you, your voice, and what you offer. And then, of course, you want to be growing your client list, right? So this is where we get into sales. The first 2 pieces are marketing, outreach and nurturing. And then when we start talking about converting people into clients, obviously then we're talking about selling. And then growing loyalty, right? This piece is often missed out because it's not as sexy. But in terms of a long-term sustainable business, making sure that you're growing loyalty with your clients is extremely important. So have a little check-in with yourself. How are you doing at these 4 different stages of a business? Are you really good at growing the relationships, that you've got that nice rhythm, but you haven't grown your audience in a couple of months or possibly even years, right? Or are you really great at growing your audience and growing your relationships and you're sharing your voice on social media, but no one's coming in to the client list because you're not doing the sales conversations? So how are you doing at those 4 stages? And what might change for you if you used story here, because story can be used efficiently and very effectively in all of those 4 phases. So you haven't just learned how to tell a good story. You have learned how to grow your business when you use story in these places. Not all of these places, don't worry, you don't have to use all of these places, but you do need to be doing something from each column. If you're not doing something from each column, that's why your business isn't growing. So that's good news, because it's really, really simple. Okay, you just need to make sure that you are going forward. And stop following all the different possible tactics that are out there, and get clear on how you want to be growing your business, and then get those pieces in place, and away you go. So in terms of growing your audience, you've got your About Me page, right? This obviously is not going to be the very first thing somebody new sees. But remember that example I gave you of meeting the speaker booker at a networking event. They're going to go check out your social media profile. They probably are going to go look at your About Me page, and you want it to cement in what you've said. So your social media profiles, they are there. They are super, super important. Having your story bio for the interviews, right? Because that's one brilliant way of growing your audience. Speaking is the best way to grow your audience, because you're in front of multiple people at one time, and you've been put there. You've been put there by someone they probably trust. You've been introduced by someone they probably trust. You immediately have borrowed credibility, right? So you're immediately in a position of authority and someone that the audience want to listen to. Obviously networking, right? You can go networking to grow your audience, joint ventures, collaborations, like doing things with and through other people, great fun ways to be growing your audience, and making sure that you've got testimonials and that you're using them often on your social media profiles, on your social media pages, so people can, to add that extra layer of credibility of, okay, yeah, no, they actually do this work. And then growing your relationships. So this is often called nurturing. I've put the About Me page here as well. Maggie, who did Mesmerize, she wrote an About Me page and a bio, so the work that we're going to do tomorrow. And then apparently, I love this, she said that her clients literally started sharing it, right? Saying, have you seen Maggie's bio? It's amazing. I don't know anyone else who shared their bio and then had it shared on by their clients. And then someone else got in touch with her and said, I read your bio and I know I need to work with you. So when we're, putting the right version of ourselves out there in our About Me page, in our bio, is also another opportunity for our clients to get to know us better, right? To find out things they didn't know about us. And obviously then you've got your newsletters or your emails, your social posts, your blog posts, things we've already talked about, interviews, Facebook Lives. Challenges are a great way to grow relationships. But again, kind of similar to a podcast, it's a massive strategy. So yeah, it's not one of the easiest. Freebies are going to grow your relationships. Freebies should also be here as well, actually, because they are out there. They can meet new people and they can sign up and join your list. And you'll notice testimonials is in all the 4 columns, because testimonials help you grow your audience. They help you nurture your audience. They help turn potential clients into clients, and they help grow loyalty. So they're super, super important. And then when it comes to using stories to grow your client list, you can use stories on your Work With Me pages, right? On your sales pages. You might want to reiterate your vision at the top of your Work With Me page and what you do, and here are the different ways I do it, right? Program, retreat, one-to-one. Boom, done. Book your call. That's your Work With Me page, done. Of course, you want to be using your stories in your webinars. Webinars should be full to the brim of stories, because stories are how we land a point. Stories are how we engage. So less teaching, more stories in your webinars. And challenges, because challenges are in growing relationships and sales, because this is actually what I prefer them for. They're a really great way to build rapport with your audience. Let's say you've got a Facebook group and then you decide to do a challenge. People are with you over the course of, like, say 3 to 7-8 days, and you're on a journey together and they get to really know you. You build great rapport, but you also build great kind of like business karma, because you have generously shared of yourself. You know that there are tons of people taking the challenge who are absolutely never going to become a client, and that's okay, right? Because if the work that you are doing is truly about creating this vision for our world, then knowing that there are people who receive and who are never going to pay you money is fine. And you've done it deliberately, you've done it strategically. You're not giving for free, because you also know some of the people in the challenge are going to become paying clients, right? So it's a win-win-win. In your invitation to a sales call, you can use story, right? It might be a testimonial as story, and then inviting someone to book a call with you. It might be a personal story, something you've overcome, and then letting them know that this is what you now help others navigate, and here's your invitation to book a sales call. So a lot of the stories you'll have written, just check, does this sort of offer itself? Does this lend itself well now for me to now pivot into an invitation to a conversation with someone? Speaking is so good, because you can literally sell from the stage. So you can meet new people, have them get to know you, and then invite them to become a client all in 1 hour, right? It's brilliant. Speaking is my absolute favorite sales business growth strategy. And then in terms of growing loyalty, this is like nurturing, but for people who are already clients, right? Stories are going to make your teaching great. They're going to make your teaching great. They're going to make it more interesting, more captivating. People are going to want to continue learning from you. You can use stories in your upsells, right? So you've crafted, let's say you've crafted a course, and you know that the outcome is a certain thing, and you know that's only a teeny tiny percentage of your work. Like for me, this course is a teeny tiny percentage of my work. Share the magic inside, teeny tiny percentage, right? And then story to take people into what else is possible, right? And then that upsell into what's next. If you're going to do things like referral agreements or have client ambassadors, making sure that they are telling the story of your business, right? And then if you want to make that a bit more official, you might want to have sort of official affiliates putting missives out there for you. And of course, again, we have testimonials. So which do you currently excel at? Like, which ones have you been putting energy and attention into, learning lots about, doing really well? And which would you like to excel at? Okay, and I'm just going to check your comments from earlier. Oh, I need to plug in my Okay. I'm answering some of these questions. I'm aware we've gone a little bit over, so thank you for bearing with me. If you need to go, of course, I will not be offended. You can catch the replay. So Diana's saying, what about a video on website? Yeah, you definitely have a video on your website. Keep them short, unless it's an actual kind of, vlog. But sort of 3-minute video on your homepage or your About Me page, yeah, great idea. It's really good because it's a way of, letting your audience see you, feel you. You just can convey a lot more with video than with writing. Rianne, does it have to be your personal profile or is it sharing? Because the reach on a business profile is not great, definitely use your personal profile. Obviously, you can't kind of officially use it for business, but that's the other really, really great benefit of this kind of way of communicating is you're not really talking about business. You're telling stories, right? So you can tell stories on your personal profile and definitely do because it just has a much bigger reach. Make sure you are using the full friend allowance, right? I've had a little peek on some of your profiles. Some of you don't have enough. So be befriending more people because then more people will see your voice out there. And definitely use that little bit of, high value real estate on your personal profile, which is your little like about section. Use it for your business, right? Use it for your business. This is one of the ways we make social media work for us is we decide I'm on here because I have things I want to, get up to and dreams I want to bring into fruition. And so I'm absolutely going to talk about my business and my work on my personal profile. And I am going to shift my mindset so that I'm here for the growth of my business and linked to that, the bringing into reality of my vision. And I'm going to ignore everything else that's rubbish about social media. Oh, thank you, Diana. That's lovely about my website. Yeah, the branding is great. I'm super happy with the branding. The copy is out of date. Okay, so Jackie's saying both. Rianne, my head says stage, my heart says stage. Well, having seen what I've seen, I think you are a natural for the stage, so I'll just add my opinion to that. Mariam, written voice. Ushmi, I think at this point I'd love to start using the stage more. Great, exciting. We can work on that in Mesmerize. Hazel, both, but slightly leaning towards page. You can totally have both, but just have one as your sort of your leading lady. Or leading man, or leading person. Lavinia, both starting with page, great. Diana's stage, I'm best with a group, second page, perfect. Karen, page at the moment with a view to stage eventually. Great, great. Stage is becoming more important for me. Yes, Nina. Erica, both starting with page. Well done, everyone. You're all making your decisions. Carol, stage, much easier for me to stay out of my head. Yeah. Diana, I believe in giving and paying it forward. Beautiful. Jackie, should we have a Facebook business page and or a Facebook group? So that is a big question. We can go into that for you because obviously it's always based on you. Right? You, what you want, how you want to be growing your business, how you want to be living your life. So we can go into that in your one-on-one session. Should we have a Facebook business page and or a Facebook group? If you ever want to be doing ads, you'll need a Facebook business page. You can't do ads from a personal page. So that's one reason to have a page. Also, a business page will give you insights into your clients, who's there, who's listening, what country are they in, what age groups are they in, what gender are they, etc. So there are some sort of tactical reasons to have a business page. and then just keep it as like the shop front essentially. So I wouldn't use it to try to sell, but I'd use it as, yes, I always keep my shop front window display nice, right? That's the role these days essentially of a Facebook business page. And then a Facebook group, I'm a big fan of them, yes, big fan, because it's a space full of your potential clients, right, that have opted in. They have said, yes, I want to be in Jackie's space, I want to hear from her, I'm here. So they're a great way to gather your people all in one space, and then from there you can speak to them, you can invite them to research calls, you can invite them to sales calls, you can do challenges. Yeah, I'm a big fan of them. Monica, I love being on stage even if it was nerve-wracking. Yes, Monica and I worked on her TED Talk, which has now had 12,000 views. It's so exciting. If you haven't watched that, you should, because Monica was fab. Carol, if we prefer stage, do we still have to do lots of social media? Well, there's never a have to. There's never a have to. Bear in mind that social media is a stage, right? Especially these days with Instagram stories and reels. It is a stage. But if you prefer real stages with boards to tread, then just use social media to back up the fact that you're an excellent speaker, right? So like I gave the example of, you can't present yourself as a speaker and then have people come onto your social media profiles and see a photo of your dog and your dinner, right? They need to see you sharing your voice. They need to get a sense of your personality. They need to get a sense of your perspective. They need to get a sense of what kind of a speaker you're going to be. Are you going to be challenging? Are you going to be nurturing? So that kind of stuff does need to be up, but this is where it gets complicated and personalized. If you really want to be seen as a professional speaker, then you probably don't want to be overdoing things like Facebook Lives, right? Because a professional speaker doesn't need to do those things. So you do need to think a little bit through the lens of, how do I want to be seen? What would a professional speaker be doing? What would they not be doing? A little bit savvy. But sharing your opinion for sure. And you can just share it in tiny little graphics, right? Just little on a graphic, on a meme, boom, my opinion, boom, my opinion. Because that's what people want when they want a speaker. They want someone with an opinion. They want someone with a point of view. That's what they're looking for. Okay. And then, hooray! The good news is, when you have these pieces working for you, when you've made your decisions, whether you're leading with spoken voice or written voice, and you've chosen the places, the wheres that you're going to be sharing your voice, and you've made sure that you've chosen some from each of those 4 columns, then it becomes a beautiful cyclical journey where you are using story to grow your audience. You are out there sharing your voice on stages or on podcasts or on Facebook Lives and on social media. You're growing your relationships. People are getting to know you. They're falling in love with your perspectives on things and the way you articulate things and your insights and your heart that you're daring to share. And they're stepping in to become clients, and they're loving your programs, and they're loving your one-to-one work. And then they start sharing the story of you and your work, and you gather their testimonials and you share them, and you grow an ambassador group, or you start doing affiliates, and this in turn grows your audience with a beautiful positive story about you, about your work in the world, about how much you care, about what it's like to work with you, and on you go. Okay, and it all gets so much easier. So, stage or page, I think you have answered this one. And then for growing your audience, so what's your focus? So I asked you which ones do you excel at and which ones do you want to excel at? So do you need to get better and put more focus and more energy and more time on growing your audience? Or deepening your relationships with your current audience, right? Some people put all their energy and attention on getting new people, right? Or leads, as people call them, and then they ignore them, right? They don't continue to share their voice. They don't email them. They don't blog. So make sure that you are in touch with, in a lovely rhythmic way that works for you, people who have put their hand up and said, yes, I want to be in your world. I want to hear from you. Is it for growing audience into clients? So the sales piece, is that the piece that needs your attention, right? Do you have like, wish me, I'm thinking of you, you know, whenever you share your voice, you have so many responses, right? So many comments. You know, you've got fans, right? You've got fans of your books, you've got fans of your voice. And so the piece for you to work on is you're turning these raving fans into paying clients. Or is it building stronger relationships with current clients? So you'll know this is you if you are constantly in this kind of feast and famine, launch, get clients in, do the work, oh my God, the clients have gone, what do I do now? Pattern, right? And you might want to start thinking about how to start shifting from that pattern into one that's more sustainable, better for your health, better for your mental health, you know, building stronger relationships with current clients, making sure you're gathering testimonials, you are, you know, really gathering the gold of the work you're already doing. Yeah, do you need to be sharing about your work? Obviously, with confidentiality, obviously in a way that, you know, isn't breaking any of those confidentiality rules. But do you need to be sharing about your actual work that you're doing with clients more out there, right? To bring this piece, yeah, this curve of the circle into action. Okay, so where will you focus? And I would like you to choose 3 places to share your story. So you've made the decision about stage or page. Now I want you to make your decision about which of the columns you want to focus on. And based on that, where will you focus? And choose 3 places to share your story. So, for example, if you want to grow your reach, you might choose to reach out with your vision to podcast hosts, right? So that's 1. Go networking, yeah, and share your Why Me story. And then get your story up on your About Me page so when new people look at it, they are captivated, right? And those 3 work nicely together because then you're going and getting your podcast interviews, you're going networking, meeting new people, and then those new people, you can send them, you know, to a freebie if you have one, to your homepage or About Me page if you don't. And when new people find it, they are captivated. So another example, I want to make more sales, right? So this is stage 3 of that 4-stage model. I want to make more sales, so I'm going to share my story with my email list with an invitation to get on the phone with me. If you have an email list and you want clients, do that. Do that. You have got people waiting for you to invite them to work with you. You're going to do the same in your Facebook group. And you're going to ask past clients for testimonials using the How to Get Glowing Testimonials guide, which we'll put in your replay email. Okay, so all focusing on improving sales. So which 3 places are you going to share your story? And a reminder of the 4 places, or four stages. Okay, growing your audience, growing your relationships, growing your client list, growing loyalty, and then some examples of places under those headings, and picking now 3 places where you are going to share your story to meet your goal. Yeah, if you want sales, look to the grow your client list. If you want to grow your audience, look at that list, etc. Okay, so we're coming into the final few moments. So just a reminder, as we get into this, this part of growing a business, which is a bit more heady, is a bit more, does require some very strategic decision making. Someone's coming in. Remember that yes, that is important, right? Super important part of growing a business, and you can do it all in integrity, right? You can take the parts of effective business building, the pieces of business strategy that work, right? And then bring you, right? Bring your essence to them. Make sure you're not throwing the baby out with the bathwater, right? I know a lot of my beautiful clients, and I was there myself, are sort of so in touch with this other way of being, and this, this like rebellious nature and this let's change the world nature, that we can have a tendency to then ignore actually rules that would be useful, right? Ways of building a business that are just tried and tested, and actually we don't need to be reinventing the wheel. The wheel is made, but we can paint it pink, okay? So, stand out by standing for something, right? Not by trying to recreate every single step of the business journey. Stand out by standing for something. Walk your talk. And, of course, a big part of what we've been doing is actually now talking your walk, right? What is that way of living that you have been doing? Those values you've been living by that are different to the dominant culture. This is what storytelling is about. It's about sharing how you've been living in ways that can help others. So talk your walk now. And remember that your unique voice calls to your real ideal clients. So don't hide it. So I would like you to make those decisions. We're going to put a thread in the Facebook group. So please put your decisions underneath them. And I will see you tomorrow, where we are going to be working on putting your story into a little bio for interviews and your About Me page. Okay, so yeah, I've got 3 minutes till I absolutely need to be off. Does anyone have any questions or comments or wonderings? Jackie?
We're working on the bio tomorrow. I just wondered if we want to get some more things done in advance. How long should the bio be? So we'd like to work on mine tonight.
Just a paragraph.
Oh, right, that, okay. The short
Yeah,
bio.
one paragraph. Yeah. If you imagine or remember perhaps times of hearing someone be introduced, the worst place it happens is on guest teaching slots, and the business owner is introducing the guest and they're reading out their bio and it takes like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
It's awful, and everyone has stopped listening before the person started talking, which is the opposite of what you want. So we want as concise as possible, just absolute highlights of you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else from anyone else?
Can I ask something?
Yes, go for it.
Yes.
Got 2 minutes.
How about a Facebook group? Is it a community? It's somewhat different, but does it have advantages or disadvantages for building?
To what? To what?
To what about a Facebook group, I guess.
Sorry, you're coming in and out, so I can't really grasp the question. You're saying, what are the advantages of a Facebook group compared to what?
Community. Community. Wait.
Well, a Facebook group can be a community, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Okay. Yeah.
is this the question you're asking? Are you talking about a Facebook group is a community, so I don't understand that as a sentence. Do you mean compared to holding your community on a different platform?
I thought these were two different concepts, a group and a Facebook community. They're two different forms. No?
No, they're exactly the same.
Okay, check.
Yeah, good. So no question, because they're the same. It's the same thing. Yeah, Facebook group, Facebook community, just different words. Jackie, yes.
A question. I'm going to go back onto your Facebook pages. Do you have a Facebook page or is it a Facebook community? So I get my head around that.
Sure, I've got both.
Okay.
So there are three things I have on Facebook. I've got my personal page.
Yes.
On there I share business stuff. I absolutely share business stuff, but I also share other stuff, right? So I share like the entirety of me. But I make sure that the about links to my Facebook group.
Right, okay.
Yeah, because then if I'm in other people's Facebook groups and I'm answering a question, or what happens now is that other people tag me in, right? Even just yesterday, I think it was. In fact, it was Elizabeth asked a question about sensitivity in another group, and 2 people in that group tagged me. So then people are going to go, oh, who's this? Click on your name, and they're going to come to your profile. And you want there to be very, very clear there what you do.
Yes.
Yeah, and where you want them to go next. So where I want them to go next is my Facebook group. So there's a link to, and then I have the Facebook group, right? So that's 2. And then I also have my Facebook business page. Okay, the Facebook business page is what I was describing as the front window, your shop window, or like a glossy brochure, right? It's not, no one's going to take action from it, but you want it there as a backup to what you're saying about who you are, what you do. It's like a credibility piece, basically. Yeah. Just making sure that there's maybe 3 posts a week, a little meme, right? A little tiny article. Don't spend a lot of time on it because the reach is atrocious. But if you ever do want to start doing Facebook ads, then you will need a Facebook page, business page. And it's useful data-wise if you've already built up a picture of your audience.
Okay, that's helpful. So are they called different names?
Mine or in general?
Yours, so I can find them online.
Yeah, so mine is just my name. So my personal one is my name, Kate Wolf.
Yeah.
The group is Highly Sensitive, Wildly Successful.
Right.
And the page is Wild Voices with Kate Wolf.
Oh yeah, I've seen them different. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, you are welcome. Alrighty, so I will see you all tomorrow. I look forward to seeing your decisions to help kind of direct your next steps forward to take your wild words out into our world. All right, bye for now.